Chapter 412. Gu Mengmeng came down from Elvis's arms, but did not leave his and Li's side. She was escorted up the altar by Elvis and Leah, and did not stop when she passed by Cole. At the end of the day, she trusted Leah more than Cole. Standing on the altar, Elvis and Leah took a step back and maintained an arm's-length distance from Gu Mengmeng. No matter what happened, the two of them had absolute confidence that they could protect Gu Mengmeng before she got hurt. Gu Mengmeng swept her gaze below the altar and unexpectedly discovered an interesting situation. Everyone revealed their tails and ears, making it seem as if they were all half-orcs. Gu Mengmeng tilted her head to look at Leah, questioning him with her eyes. Leah, on the other hand, glanced at Cole below the stage. Gu Mengmeng followed Li's gaze and indeed saw Cole swinging his fluffy and white big tail, with a pair of furry fox ears on top of his head. That appearance looked a little like Ba Wei. Although she did not know what exactly was going on, Gu Mengmeng did not dare to simply ask. After all, the males in the beast world had shockingly good hearing. No matter how softly she spoke, it would not escape their ears. Suppressing her curiosity, Gu Mengmeng took a deep breath. Then, following the amusing beast skin esoterica left behind by the previous messenger of the beast deity, she slowed down her speed by 16 times as she danced in the square, chanting as if she was reading the Bible. I planted, I'll have to eat the fruit, bear with it. She could not laugh. Today is a good day. She felt like an idiot. Pluck thesters give you pull it down hemun for you. Damn it. She could not hold it in anymore. Gu Mengmeng's face turned red. The more she tried to hold back her laughter, the more she wanted to laugh. In the end, she could not hold it in any longer and laughed until she bent over on the stage, hammering the ground. The people below the stage were dumbfounded. Elvis and Leah on the stage were also at a loss. Elvis asked Leah with his eyes, "Did Cole use the fox seductive fragrance on her?" Leah shook his head and replied with his eyes, "The fox seductive fragrance does not have this type of effect." Cole was even more puzzled. He felt that the holy light had shone on his head just now. Why did Gu Mengmeng suddenly laugh like that? Gu Mengmeng's smile seemed to have silenced the entire world. By the time Gu Mengmeng was done laughing and came back to her senses, one could imagine how awkward the atmosphere was. It was like the national table tennis team participating in the Olympic Games. When you stood on the champion's podium to receive the award, the person giving the award had just hung the gold medal around your neck, and then you suddenly danced to 18 touches. It was being broadcasted live on TV all over the world. That was King embarrassing. Background music, the most frightening thing, is the sudden silence in the air. Gu Mengmeng cleared her throat and stood up. Pretending to be calm, she said, "Then, my dad is the beast deity, you all know that, huh?" Boom, there was an uproar below the stage. Even Cole was shocked speechless. Chapter 413. Miscalculation, such a miscalculation. Damn it, now it was back to normal. Gu Mengmeng glanced around at the sea of people with flags waving in the wind and the joyous scene. She laughed awkwardly and thought to herself, how could it be back? Clenching her teeth, Gu Mengmeng decided to treat this sacrificial ceremony as a surprise version of a mini theater in an amusement park. There was one time when the main character was heartbroken and spouted nonsense on stage, changing his lines randomly. Then, the supporting actors had to act according to his words on the spot, and surprisingly, that scene received unanimous praise from the audience, saying that it was rich in emotions, exquisite and full of emotions. Taking a deep breath, Gu Mengmeng gestured for everyone to quieten down and said, "Let me formally introduce myself to everyone. I am the eldest daughter of the beast deity, Gu Mengmeng. I am here on the orders of the beast deity to bring you light and hope, food and knowledge." Beast deity, beast deity, beast deity. The audience cheered and Gu Mengmeng unintentionally pushed the beast deity's majestic image to a new level. After all, in the beast world, being by the beast deity's side was bliss and safety. But the beast deity sent his own daughter here, just to let them live a better life. So touched. The beast deity was indeed a majestic, sacred and inviolable existence. Gu Mengmeng suddenly understood a little. No wonder the previous messenger of the beast deity could fool everyone with a little apple and 300 poems of the Tang dynasty. It was not that the previous messenger of the beast deity was too smart, but the people in the beast world were generally pure and kind, as if they had never been fooled before. Glancing at Cole, she realized that he was also looking at her with a face full of admiration and devotion. Gu Mengmeng thought to herself, did Leah overestimate Cole? How could he believe such nonsense? Gu Mengmeng straightened her back and continued, I laughed just now because my beast father, the beast deity, responded to my prayers. He said. Gu Mengmeng purposely dragged out her words until everyone's eyes were fixed on her, holding their breaths and waiting for her next words. Gu Mengmeng then slowly said, he will bless the beast world and protect the devout believers from misfortune. It was actually very immoral for Gu Mengmeng to fool people like this, because even the content she used to fool them was not original. Yes, she copied the Yellow Turban Army's idea. If you turn misfortune into fortune, it means that the beast deity has blessed you. But if you die, it only proves that you are not pious enough. However, such a verbal trap caused the audience to cheer and jump with joy. The scene was even more exaggerated than when the female soldiers were unable to control their emotions and burst into tears when Fat Tai was inspecting the military camp. Gu Mengmeng maintained the smile of the Statue of Liberty and waved her hands. Since the beast deity has already agreed to our request, then this sacrificial ceremony can end now. Let's all go and do what we need to do. Don't gather here. After all, the police will check your ID card for illegal gathering. The audience was stunned. They had probably never experienced such an efficient sacrificial ceremony before and couldn't get used to it for a while. It was just like the teacher who would say, come on, students, we'll be done with this question. One day, before the bell rang, the teacher had already picked up his books and walked out of the classroom. Happiness comes too suddenly. It's also very troublesome. Gu Mengmeng felt a little helpless as she looked at everyone staring at her in a daze. Chapter 4:14. Actually, the orcs did not know how to count, but at least they knew that the quota was getting lesser and lesser. Moreover, 6 single males had become partners in just a few days, and they were all the top beauties in their respective tribes. This was indeed the beast deity's blessing. Because of this, the males became even more enthusiastic, shouting for Gu Mengmeng to announce the selection rules for this round. Gu Mengmeng gestured a "please be quiet" gesture, then put on the professional smile of a female executive, saying, considering the families of the warriors, the number of applicants this time is set at 5. The topic of recruitment is this. Gu Mengmeng took out 2 chilies, 1 red and 1 green, from her pocket. Only Elvis and Leah knew about this method of making pockets on beast skin, so when Gu Mengmeng conjured 2 strange fruits out of thin air, the crowd below the stage was shocked once again. Gu Mengmeng completely did not know that her unconscious action was as shocking as swallowing the Leaning Tower of Pisa in front of everyone. She just minded her own business and said, everyone look closely at this fruit, this is the beast deity's blessing, it is also limited to sunset. The top 5 who bring back the most will obtain the quota to join Saint Nazir. After Gu Mengmeng finished speaking, she threw the 2 chilies into the crowd, saying, this is for you to use as a sample. Gu Mengmeng regretted after throwing it. It was like throwing a piece of meat bone into a wolf's den. Would there be a stampede? Elvis carried Gu Mengmeng and said, since we are done, let's go back to the stone house first. Gu Mengmeng nodded, looking back at the crowd worriedly. Where are they? Finished fighting? So efficient, passing by Cole. Cole did not stop Gu Mengmeng from leaving, but instead followed behind Elvis, walking shoulder to shoulder with Leah. Leader Cole, why are you following us? Your place is in the opposite direction. Gu Mengmeng said. Cole was still smiling, asking, mighty messenger, if I find the most beast deity's blessings, can I also join Saint Nazir? Gu Mengmeng's lips twitched, saying, didn't I say it previously? Your Sauter is the tribe of the previous messenger of the beast deity. It is against the rules for me to snatch their territory the moment I arrive. You better guard Sauter well. Cole seemed a little down as he asked, could it be that Sauter has already been abandoned by the beast deity, so it can't receive the messenger's favor? Gu Mengmeng laughed awkwardly and said, a new ruler brings his own courtiers. This has been the case since ancient times. Everyone feels more at ease with their own people. I hope you understand. Cole's eyes were somewhat similar to Lee's, but they were not Lee's classical phoenix eyes. Instead, they were slightly bigger and shorter, looking less amorous and more radiant. And at that moment, those radiant eyes were like transparent glass refracting the sunlight, shining directly on Gu Mengmeng's face. He asked, "Can't I also become one of the great messenger's people?" Gu Mengmeng laughed dryly and said, "Of course not, I'm not interested in other people's husbands. It's immoral to destroy other people's families, I won't do such a thing." "The great messenger knows that I have mated?" Cole asked. Gu Mengmeng said, "My hubby is a 4th level orc. You were completely fine the last time he released his pressure. This proves that you've broken through the boundary of level 3, right? Aside from the topic, it's time to say our goodbyes once a day again. Today's 9 o'clock has ended, baby. See you tomorrow." Chapter 4:15. Cole lowered his head and rubbed his chin. "Ah, so it was a mistake here. If I had known earlier, I would have pretended to faint." Gu Mengmeng smiled awkwardly. "This is not the main point, right?" Cole looked up. "Then what is the main point?" Gu Mengmeng was taken aback. She suddenly could not remember what the main point was. "The main point is that you are already a mated male. Why don't you go home and play with your own female? Why do you keep following my Gu Mengmeng?" Leah purposely stood in between Cole and Elvis. "I heard that the great messenger likes your tail the most." Cole smiled at Leah. "I heard that the great messenger likes your tail the most?" Leah paused and asked, "What is it?" Cole asked. "Then do you still want your tail?" Leah sneered. "This time, you want to snatch my tail?" Cole swayed his fluffy tail. "You don't have to snatch it. I have it." Leah said in a tone of sudden realization, "Ah, I forgot. You just like to see others in pain." Cole's gaze sharpened as he stared coldly at Leah. The smile on his face was still maintained, not even the slightest change in its arc. He said, "When the day comes where you no longer need to rely on the great messenger's protection to return to Sauter, come and say this to me again. The current you still doesn't have that right." Gu Mengmeng patted Elvis's shoulder. She gestured for him to put her down. Elvis hesitated for a moment. Then, he did as he was told. Gu Mengmeng walked to Leah. She opened her arms and gestured for a hug. Leah was stunned for a moment. He smiled gently and carried Gu Mengmeng. He buried his nose in her neck and enjoyed her hug. As for Cole, he was no longer important. Gu Mengmeng hugged Lee's neck back. She looked at Cole. "The current Leah is no longer the 9th highness you can chase away. He is my family now. Please be more respectful when you speak. Or else, I don't mind abusing my authority as the messenger of the beast deity to destroy your Sauter." Cole did not expect Gu Mengmeng to stand up for Leah. He was slightly surprised. But his expression did not change. Placing his right hand on his left chest, Leah said respectfully and sincerely, "Yes, I will follow the great messenger's orders." Gu Mengmeng patted Lee's back lightly, then said to Cole, "If there's nothing else, Leader Cole, please return. Our family is going back to eat. We didn't prepare any food for you." Cole tilted his head and smiled. "It's all right, great messenger. I just need to watch you eat." Gu Mengmeng shook her head and returned a polite smile. "Didn't your mother tell you that it's rude to stare at others eating?" Cole shook his head honestly. Gu Mengmeng laughed coldly and said, "Then let me tell you now, it's very rude to stare at others while they are eating. You will be despised." Cole nodded his head in confusion. "Then I'll turn around when you're eating. I won't look." Gu Mengmeng twitched her lips. "But our family didn't prepare any air to serve you. Unless you start to stop breathing when you enter my house, it might not be convenient for our family to serve you." Leah tilted his head and leaned against Gu Mengmeng's neck. He looked at Cole through Gu Mengmeng's chin. He said coquettishly, "Mengmeng, I don't like foxes other than me in our family. Aside from the topic, yesterday, I saw a reader's little darling asking about Cole. I was very touched, little darling who likes to read the text seriously. Chapter 4:16. Gu Mengmeng looked at Cole apologetically and said, "You heard it, Leah has always been this awkward and can't tolerate a second vixen at home. So I'm sorry, don't go to my little stone house if there's nothing important in the future." Cole tilted his head and asked in confusion, "Is the great messenger siding with Leah?" Gu Mengmeng nodded and admitted openly, "Yes, can't you tell?" Cole nodded and said, "I can tell, but I'm not sure, so I'm just asking." Cole remained silent for 2 seconds before continuing to ask, "Since the great messenger likes Leah so much, why don't you mate with him and instead let him stay in the position of a beast pet?" This was Gu Mengmeng's weakness. Although her breakup with Leah was planned by Leah, she couldn't explain why, but she felt a sense of guilt. It was as if she was the one who betrayed them. Maybe it was because after the breakup, she had Elvis and was living a blissful life. But Leah had always been single for no reason, staying by her side as a beast pet to protect her. But now, what else could she give him in return? Relationships were the most vulnerable things in this world. Elvis took a step forward and blocked Cole's gaze, saying, "Who do you think you are? Why do we need to answer to you about our family's matters?" Cole suddenly laughed. From his point of view, although there were only 3 people in Gu Mengmeng's family, but this family relationship was so messy and hard to understand. Beast pets were just playthings for females when they were excited. Females would not take it to heart even if they were ridiculed by others. But Gu Mengmeng was standing up for Leah. Although the first partner would not stop females from mating with other males, he would usually create obstacles in the dark and not let other males get close to his own female easily. This was especially true for males who were handsome and liked by females. They were even more guarded against them. For someone like Leah, he should be guarded to the death before mating. Someone had ridiculed his status as a beast pet. Shouldn't the first partner stand by and watch coldly? It would be best if Gu Mengmeng would say something to provoke Leah and make him leave disheartened. But this stupid wolf from Gu Mengmeng's family actually jumped out to help Leah. Elvis snorted coldly and ignored Cole's blank look. Just as he was about to turn around, Cole suddenly opened his mouth and said, "I can be considered as that fox's second brother. With such an identity, can I ask about it?" With a cold expression, Leah carried Gu Mengmeng and stood beside Elvis. He stood shoulder to shoulder with Gu Mengmeng, standing on either side of her. His long and narrow eyes were filled with coldness and composure. His voice was calm, without any anger or growl, just like a bowl of still water, without any ripples. He said, "I remember that day when Sauter banished me," Leader Cole said it himself. "From now on, Sauter will no longer have a 9th highness and you will no longer have a brother like me." What? Now that he saw Mengmeng treating me well, he wanted to come back and claim kinship. "I'm sorry, in my family, there are only Mengmeng and Elvis, there's no so-called second brother." After Leah finished speaking, he turned around and left with Elvis without turning back to look at Cole. Gu Mengmeng could feel Lee's body trembling. Chapter 4:17. Was he always like this? Pretending to be nonchalant and able to face everything with a smile, but in actual fact, Sauter was still a scar on his heart, right? How could it not hurt? "I'm sorry." Gu Mengmeng leaned on Lee's shoulder and wrapped her arms around his neck, whispering, "Let's settle the recruitment as soon as possible, then return to Saint Nazaire. In the future, the beauty pageant will be held in Saint Nazaire instead, and we will never come to Sauter again, all right?" Lee's body stiffened, and he raised his head with difficulty, caressing the back of Gu Mengmeng's head. His voice was like flowing water, with a tinge of pain, as he said, "Being able to make you feel heartache for me once, the past is already worth it. Don't worry, I'm fine. I'm no longer the 9th highness that could be manipulated by others, now. I also have something that I want to protect with my life." Gu Mengmeng did not say anything. She remembered Elvis saying that in the past few years, Leah only had destruction in his eyes. Everything he did was to destroy Sauter. But now, he said that everything he did was to protect something with his life. Her heart shrank violently. Could she say that she did not understand? Did she not understand what he wanted to protect? Gu Mengmeng's hand subconsciously tightened, and she bit her lower lip, using an almost inaudible voice to say, "I'm sorry." Li's smile was so bitter, but he could not bear to put Gu Mengmeng in a difficult position. Hence, he took a deep breath and forced his smile to look bright and affectionate. He said in an extremely ambiguous tone, "You know, compared to an apology, I prefer to hear a confession. If you really love me, why don't you call me Daddy Leah?" Gu Mengmeng did not say anything, just quietly hugging Leah, snuggling in his arms along the way, quietly, not struggling or making a noise. Leah knew that Gu Mengmeng was comforting him. He also knew that once they returned to that stone house, Gu Mengmeng would return to Elvis's arms, and would not let him hug her like this again. His footsteps slowed down unknowingly. He hoped that there was no end to this road. But in the end, they still returned to that small stone house. There were two people standing outside the house. Gu Mengmeng was taken aback for a moment, recalling that one of them was the first partner of that half-beast snake, Ellie. What was his name again? Gu Mengmeng had forgotten. Waving her hands, Gu Mengmeng smiled and said, "Hi, official Su Xian. How come you have time to come here today? Don't you need to serve your Baisuzhen?" Ellie's first partner pointed at his own nose and said, "Lord Su Xian?" Gu Mengmeng nodded sincerely and said, "Yeah, let me tell you, there are 3 people I admire the most in my life. Dong Yong dared to sleep with immortals, Ning Kaichen dared to sleep with ghosts, and Su Xian dared to sleep with snakes. I really didn't expect that I would actually meet a living one. TSK, TSK, TSK. This is definitely something that I'll see in my lifetime." Leah knew that Gu Mengmeng's nonsense was a signal, indicating that he should let go. Placing Gu Mengmeng on the ground, Li's gaze was filled with unconcealable gentleness. He watched as the last strand of her hair slipped away from his fingertips, as her joyful back view leaped up and walked to Darch, patting his shoulder and smiling in a rather wretched manner. Leah could not help but smile too. Even though his arms were empty, Leah already felt very satisfied looking at her like this. Chapter 4:18. Although Darch did not understand what Gu Mengmeng was talking about, but the messenger of the beast deity's words would never be wrong. So Darch bowed and said, "Thank you, great messenger, for bestowing me with a name. From today onwards, I will be called official Su Xian." Pfft, ha ha ha. "Official, why are you looking for me today?" Gu Mengmeng asked with a smile. Official Su Xian smacked his head and said, "Oh, right. I almost forgot." Gu Mengmeng held on to Elvis's arm and held back her laughter, asking, "What is it? Say it." Official Su Xian said, "Ellie wants to join the Sauter tribe, so I am here to bid farewell to you." In the beast world, it was common sense that male passions would follow the females wherever they went. Ellie had 9 partners, but now, only this official Su Xian and another male partner whom Gu Mengmeng could not remember even though he looked familiar came to bid farewell to her. It could be seen that these two still had feelings for Saint Nazir. Gu Mengmeng kept her smile and nodded, saying, "All right, I understand. Although you will no longer be tribesmen of Saint Nazir in the future, don't forget that Saint Nazir used to be your home. Have you all remembered the method I taught everyone to store food before winter? Before winter this year, bring the males in your family to prepare more food, don't let the females eat you all up when they are hungry." Official Su Xian scratched his head and gave an embarrassed smile, saying, "You don't blame us for leaving Saint Nazir?" Gu Mengmeng said, "I'd rather tear down 10 temples than ruin a marriage. I can't possibly force you to give up your own happiness and stay in Saint Nazir as bachelors for the rest of your lives." Official Su Xian hesitated for a moment and asked, "Can I really use the method you taught me to store food for the winter?" "Don't worry, I will definitely not teach it to others." Gu Mengmeng nodded and said, "Of course you can. It's up to you whether you want to teach it to others or not. Since I told you all, I have no intention of hiding it." Official Su Xian pursed his lips, as if he wanted to say something but was too embarrassed to do so. He hesitated for a long time, making Gu Mengmeng furious. He patted him on the chest and said, you weren't like this in the past. If there's anything you want to say, just say it. You're like a sissy. If you continue to blabber like this, don't say that you know me when you go out in the future. I'll find it embarrassing. Official Su Xian's face turned even redder after being teased by Gu Mengmeng. He lowered his head like a child who had done something wrong and asked softly, then, will you still give us the salt to marinate the meat? Gu Mengmeng thought for a while and said, salt is a resource of Saint Nazir. You are no longer a tribesman of Saint Nazir, so I naturally cannot provide salt to you for free. However, you can use prey of equivalent value to exchange with us. As for the exact method of exchange, I will go back and discuss with Elvis before telling you. Official Su Xian hurriedly nodded. As long as he was willing to exchange, it was good. After all, Gu Mengmeng was the messenger of the beast deity, and all the males in the world would be proud to provide her with food. Moreover, with Elvis's hunting abilities, Gu Mengmeng would never lack food. So, her willingness to exchange was actually a form of taking care of him. This thought made official Su Xian extremely grateful. He felt even more guilty for leaving Saint Nazir because of his mating. Hence, he promised again and again that he would not tell anyone about the secret of marinating the meat. Even if Ellie asked, he would not say anything. Gu Mengmeng really wanted to say, actually, it's fine even if you say it. Chapter 419. After official Su Xian left, Gu Mengmeng and the other two returned to their temporary house. The three of them had a tacit understanding not to mention what Cole had said to him, and also did not ask Leah about the past where he was hurt again and again. Instead, they were discussing another matter regarding Cole. Gu Mengmeng said, if Ellie was sent by Sauter to stay by my side, then her motive shouldn't be just to trick 9 males from Saint Nazir to mate with, right? Although she's a half-orc, but with her looks and tricks, there should be quite a number of males who are willing to mate with her. Leah said, I also find it very strange, not only about Ellie wanting to join Sauter, but also the offering ceremony just now. Cole actually did not try to separate Elvis and I from you, nor did he create any chance for himself to perform, and even said some things that made you uncomfortable on the way back. This is really not his style. Elvis remained silent, he did not say a word and just frowned. Gu Mengmeng looked at Elvis and asked, Hubby, what's wrong with you? Are you still upset because of Cole? Elvis looked into Gu Mengmeng's eyes and nodded. Gu Mengmeng laid on Elvis's thighs obediently and looked up at his blue eyes, asking, is it because he said he wants to be my beast pet? Don't worry, I won't rear a beast pet. Elvis raised his eyebrows and glanced at Leah from the corner of his eyes, asking with a smile, why not? Most beast pets are obedient and know how to please you, unlike me who always do things that make you angry. Gu Mengmeng giggled and said, obedient and adorable males, I have already given birth to 4 of them. Huda and the other 3 are the ones who know how to please me the best in this world. Upon hearing that, Elvis's face darkened, he frowned and asked, miss them? Gu Mengmeng nodded, she had been busy with the recruitment these few days and realized that she had neglected Lee's emotions today. The physical and mental fatigue made her want to retreat and return to that cave to hug her sons and give them a good rub. Gu Mengmeng touched Elvis's tail from time to time, saying, I wonder if they cried when I was not around? Did they eat properly? Did they miss me a lot? Elvis laughed coldly and said, have you seen a wolf cry before? Gu Mengmeng was taken aback. She tried hard to recall, then shook her head. Elvis kissed Gu Mengmeng's forehead and said, although I don't really like them, but they have inherited our powerful genes. If they want to die just because their mother beast is not around, then there's no need for such trash to exist. Gu Mengmeng glared at him and said, who are you calling trash? You're the useless one. Your entire neighborhood is useless. Elvis sighed. You are throwing a tantrum at me because of them again. Gu Mengmeng pursed her lips, feeling rather guilty. Elvis shook his head and rubbed Gu Mengmeng's little head, sighing softly, I dislike them more and more. Why don't you consider Leah? I feel that interacting with Leah is much easier than interacting with those 4 fellows. Gu Mengmeng smiled apologetically and said, don't be like this, my son is also very easy to get along with, really. Elvis raised his brows. Really? But why do I become so irritable when I see them? Gu Meng Meng mumbled, because you might have rabies. Elvis, what? Chapter 420. Elvis pinched Gu Meng Meng's little nose and shook it. With a loving expression, he said, if you could give me more attention to them, I might not hate them so much. Gu Meng Meng wrapped her arms around Elvis's waist. Those sons are your own after all. Think about how much suffering I had to go through to give birth to them. Even if you cherish my hard work, you should include them a little. Elvis sighed. That's why I kept tolerating them. I didn't chase them away or bite them to death. Gu Meng Meng pulled a long face and chided him. If you continue to say such scary things, I will get angry. Elvis smiled bitterly. All right, I won't say it anymore. I won't say it again. Gu Meng Meng kissed Elvis's face. Hubby is so obedient. But this time, Gu Meng Meng did not dare to show that she missed her sons in front of Elvis. In order to hide her emotions, Gu Meng Meng could only bring the topic back to Cole. Hubby, you haven't told me why you hate Cole. Elvis remained silent for a moment. I can't say it. I just feel that he is very dangerous. Gu Meng Meng gave a naughty smile. You won't badmouth him just because you can't beat him, right? Elvis's face darkened as he said, yes, his abilities are above mine and his looks are 80% similar to Lee's. Your favorite big tail, his one looks much bigger than Lee's too. He combined all of Lee's and my strengths. How about it, are you interested in taking him in? Gu Meng Meng looked at Elvis's darkened face. She suddenly smiled. She held up Elvis's face and kissed him. Hubby, you look so cute when you are jealous. Elvis was a little dazed by Gu Meng Meng's kiss. But he felt sweetness in his heart. With a faint smile in his blue eyes, he held Gu Meng Meng's chin and brought it to his mouth. He kissed her deeply until her plump lips were slightly red and swollen from his kisses. Only then did he slowly let go of her. Using his thumb to caress her lips, he said, You like to see me jealous? Gu Meng Meng nodded. Her face was flushed red due to the lack of oxygen from the kiss, adding a touch of charm to her smile. You keep telling me to accept others as partners every day. I thought you didn't care about me anymore. But wasn't your jealousy a little too serious? Although it looked ferocious, I felt at ease. You finally care that there are other males around me. Moreover, you look so handsome when you're jealous. Elvis could not help but laugh out loud. He clearly remembered that whenever his face darkened in the past, even Leah would avoid him. He had heard many descriptions such as terrifying, cruel, bloodthirsty, brutal, and so on. But this was the first time someone had said that his darkened face was extremely handsome, with such a satisfied smile on his face. You're not afraid of me? Gu Meng Meng replied, Why should I be afraid of you? I remember back then, you were very afraid of me, as if you always felt that I was going to eat you up. Gu Meng Meng shrugged her shoulders shyly and used her elbow to hit Elvis's chest. She pouted coquettishly, Damn you, haven't I been eaten up by you long ago? Our son is already so big. Chapter 421. Gu Meng Meng smiled as she leaned into Elvis's arms. It's not that exaggerated. At least our Huda and his brothers won't become your love rivals. Elvis smiled coldly. You have to be especially wary of those 4 rascals. They are the ones who snatch my wife the most. Gu Meng Meng pounded Elvis's chest in a coquettish manner. A father should have the bearing of a father. Don't always compete with your own sons, all right? Elvis sighed. He felt helpless at how Gu Meng Meng always defended those 4 little ones. But the more she defended them, the more he felt they were a hindrance. The 3 of them discussed Ellie and Cole for a while. Their conclusion was that it was better for Ellie to stay in Sauter. It would save them trouble. During dinner time, Oriton carried a giant beast that looked like a rhinoceros to the outside of the stone house. He stood at the door and hesitated for a moment before calling out. Gu Meng Meng, are you there? Elvis stood at the door and blocked all the light. He frowned when he saw the giant beast Oriton was carrying. He asked coldly, "What's the matter?" Oriton looked at Elvis with a poker face. "I'm here to deliver food to Gu Meng Meng." Elvis replied, "My female, I will prepare my own food. You don't have to worry." Oriton replied, "Although you are Gu Meng Meng's first partner, you shouldn't be able to stop other males from courting her." Elvis laughed coldly. Then, he slowly released his pressure. He gradually increased the pressure. Oriton's forehead was covered in sweat as he watched the beast. Then, his knees buckled from the pressure and he knelt on the ground on one knee. The giant beast fell to the side. Oriton used his fist to support his body. However, his head was still held up high. Moreover, there was no expression on his face. He looked at Elvis with a poker face. There was no fear and no intention to retreat. Gu Meng Meng peeked her little head out from Elvis's waist. She wrapped her arms around Elvis's waist and said in a coquettish voice, "Why did you scare him for no reason? You even made Leah uncomfortable in the house." Elvis then retracted his pressure. He rubbed Gu Meng Meng's little head lovingly. "Can I send someone flying when he comes to court you?" Gu Meng Meng glanced at the giant beast beside Oriton. She looked up at Elvis. "You don't hit a smiling person. He came to visit us with a gift. Why are you beating him up? Isn't it just a free meal?" Petty, as Gu Meng Meng said, she pinched Elvis's waist lightly before skipping to the front of the gigantic beast. She laid on the beast's face to look at its single horn. It looked a little like a rhinoceros, and a little like a hippopotamus, or a hippopotamus with rhinoceros horns. Anyway, it looked quite ugly, but that horn looked really good. Gu Meng Meng rubbed her hands together and looked at Oriton. "You prepare your own ingredients and we will be in charge of processing them. Just treat it as sharing a meal and I won't accept your gift, alright?" Oriton looked at Gu Meng Meng without any expression on his face. He opened his mouth slowly. His voice was flat. "Can I stay for a meal too?" Gu Meng Meng nodded. "Of course. This prey is yours." Oriton shook his head. "This prey is yours." Chapter 422. Elvis carried Gu Meng Meng and pointed at the horn that looked like a rhinoceros, asking, "You like it?" Gu Meng Meng nodded and did not say a word. Without another word, Elvis went up and broke it off with a snap. Then, he walked to Oriton and waved his hand, saying, "I want this thing." Gu Meng Meng was dumbfounded and could not say a word as she looked at Elvis's actions. Oriton was expressionless as well, as if this was very normal. Elvis called Leah over and threw the beast horn into his hands, saying, "Go wash it, Xiao Meng wants to play with it." Gu Meng Meng held her forehead and thought to herself, why did his words sound so awkward? But she could not retort. After all, it was indeed what she wanted. The moment Elvis brushed past Oriton, he said coldly, "You can scram now, don't waste the air in our house." Oriton clearly did not know where the joke of wasting air came from. He only knew that it was the first partner's order for him to leave. After hesitating for a moment, when Elvis was about to take his second step, she said, "I'm here to share a meal, I'll prepare my own ingredients, can I?" Elvis paused and turned to look at the beast, laughing coldly. "I've already taken the only thing that we are interested in from that prey. Do you think we will still let you stay for a meal?" Oriton remained silent for a moment, before replying, "Oh, then I'll hunt a new one tomorrow and come back for a meal." Gu Meng Meng held her forehead and said, no need, just one of that beast horn is enough for me. Since you've already brought the thing, don't carry it around, let's eat together." Elvis frowned and said, "We don't have extra air to serve our guests." Gu Meng Meng pouted her lips and said, "We've already taken his beast horn and the ingredients were prepared by him. It's not appropriate to not even let him eat, let him bring his own air, alright?" Elvis's face darkened and he frowned, asking, "You like him?" Gu Meng Meng shook her head and covered her mouth as she laughed. Hubby, keep your seductive look. I'm afraid I can't control myself and pounce on you in front of everyone." Elvis smiled evilly and said, "Pounce on me? That's exactly what I want." Gu Mengmeng bumped Elvis's shoulder and said, "Stop fooling around, there are still people watching." Elvis glanced at Oriton, then turned to look at Gu Mengmeng. "How about I directly release my pressure and make him faint?" Gu Mengmeng blushed as she placed both her hands on Elvis's ears and whispered, "The person who went to pick the chili should be back soon. I have to choose 5 warriors. You know, you don't have enough time. Besides, it's such a physically taxing task. Why don't you let me eat my fill first?" The corners of Elvis's lips curled up and there was a smile in his eyes. "I can leave the selection of warriors to Leah, but feeding you is the most important thing now." Gu Mengmeng wrapped her arms around Elvis's neck and kissed him. "Thank you, tribe leader, for your understanding." Elvis returned a kiss to Gu Mengmeng's little face and finally smiled. He glanced at Oriton disdainfully and said, "Xiao Meng doesn't like bloody scenes. Bring that to the stream and clean it up before bringing it back. If you don't know how to do it, just ask anyone from Saint Nazaire." Chapter 423. Oriton didn't even ask why. He picked up the beast and walked towards the stream. At this moment, Leah had already washed the beast horn and brought it back. He held it in his hands and looked at it for a while. "What's so special about this stupid thing?" Gu Mengmeng smiled mysteriously and said, "You don't know about this. At my place, it's already not bad to be able to buy a comb made from a buffalo horn. Sometimes, it's even fake goods made from plastic. See this? It's the real deal, good stuff." Leah and Elvis looked at each other and sighed helplessly. Gu Mengmeng was always like this. She would casually take out and share the things that others cherished but could not get. This kind of thing that no one would want to bend down to pick up if it was thrown on the ground, but she was very fond of it. She gestured with her hands, thinking about something. Sometimes she frowned, and sometimes she laughed. She was as happy as a child. Gu Mengmeng fiddled with the beast horn as she said, "Later on, whoever comes to share a meal with us, you can place our biggest pot on the rack and let's have a hot pot. In any case, we'll have new chilies tonight. Don't save the old ones. Put them all in the pot to make the soup base." Leah nodded and did as he was told. Even though Gu Mengmeng did not mention his name, the whole family knew that Elvis could not cook. Elvis carried Gu Mengmeng and sat at the entrance of the stone house. The setting sun dyed half the sky red and the afterglow shone on Gu Mengmeng, making her look like a little sun emitting energy. It was warm and scorching, making one yearn for it, making one unable to resist it, making one want to cherish it. "Hubby, can you help me?" Gu Mengmeng raised her head and met Elvis's blue eyes, which were staring at her deeply. Elvis responded with a single word. But Gu Mengmeng lowered her head shyly and swallowed her saliva. "Hubby, you look like this, it's tempting to commit a crime." Elvis smiled faintly and said, "Yeah, when we first met, you said that being as handsome as me is against the rules, so you won't take responsibility." Gu Mengmeng also recalled the first time they met. She hooked her arms around his neck and said, "At that time, I thought you were an elf living in the forest." He looked so proud and aloof, untainted by worldly affairs. Who would have thought that he was actually a pervert? Elvis also smiled and replied, "Yeah, black." Gu Mengmeng turned her head and asked again, "Then how did you feel when you first saw me?" Elvis was silent for a while before saying, "Very angry." Gu Mengmeng pouted and said, "What, shouldn't you say love at first sight at this time?" Elvis shook his head and said, "You were wearing a strange outfit that made one's blood boil. Even I almost could not control myself at that time. But you didn't even put up your guard at all. You extended your hand to someone you didn't even know. Whenever I think about it, if it wasn't me, there would be another man who saw you dressed like this and held your hand. I feel a ball of fire burning in my chest. I can't wait to bite all the males in the world to death, so that you can only belong to me." Gu Mengmeng felt a sweetness in her heart and leaned into Elvis's arms, saying, "Don't I only belong to you now? Come, my dear and only hubby, help me cut this beast horn. Just draw a straight line from here, yes, just like that." Be careful, take your time. Digression, it's time to say goodbye to everyone again. Chapter 424. When Oriton returned, this was the scene he saw. Gu Mengmeng was kneeling in front of Elvis, directing Elvis to cut that piece of beast horn with full concentration. Elvis was extremely nervous throughout, as if what he was holding was not an ordinary beast horn, but an extremely precious treasure. The legendary Elvis, who was like the god of death, was actually frowning, his forehead filled with fine beads of sweat. Elvis, who could accurately hunt the one he wanted among hundreds of ferocious beasts, was now so careful that his sharp claws were trembling. Saint Nazir's wise snow fox, Leah, was squatting by the fire, adding more firewood while stirring the soup in the pot. He would occasionally look up at Gu Mengmeng and Elvis fighting with the beast horn, then smile gently. The legendary cruel and decisive black and white duo, were they really these two people who looked so blissful and gentle? Leah was the first to notice Oriton. Seeing him standing there in a daze, he waved his hand and said, "Hey, we're sharing a meal. Bring the ingredients over quickly after washing them." "Oh." Oriton responded, but his feet did not move. Could he, also walk into this blissful scene? Ah. Gu Mengmeng sighed, her little face collapsing into a bun. Elvis looked at the beast horn that had been broken into 8 pieces in his hands, panicking and not knowing what to do. He said, "Xiao Meng, don't be sad. I'll hunt this kind of beast tomorrow and find a thicker and bigger one for you, alright?" Gu Mengmeng's heart ached as she held on to those half-finished products. She nodded helplessly and said, "That's the only way." "What a pity, we've been working on it for half a day and we're so close to succeeding." Elvis could not bear to see Gu Mengmeng disappointed, so he hugged her in his arms and comforted her, "Be good, I'll do it with you tomorrow. With today's experience, we'll definitely succeed tomorrow. Trust me, alright?" Gu Mengmeng nodded and replied, "Yeah, then let's eat first. I've been starving for half a day." Elvis turned around and looked at Oriton, who was still in a daze. He said unhappily, "Do you want to come over and eat with us? If you don't, I'll go prepare other prey." Oriton then regained his senses and walked quickly towards Gu Mengmeng. His heart was madly beating non-stop. It was as if he was hallucinating, that he was also a member of this family. No one cared about Oriton's inner thoughts. Leah automatically took the meat from Oriton's hands and frowned. "Who taught you to handle it this way?" Oriton didn't understand and replied, "I think he's called Lawson." Leah sneered and asked again, "You didn't tell them that this meat is for Mengmeng to eat, right?" Oriton shook his head, indicating that he did not say anything. Leah sighed. "I knew it. If you had told them it was for Mengmeng, they would not have pranked you." Oriton frowned, not understanding what was going on. Leah said, "Look, the lines on this meat are not severed. Females don't have fangs, so it will be very difficult for them to bite. That's why when we deal with our prey, we'll cut off the meat to make it easier for the female to chew." Oriton lowered his head in frustration and said, "I'm sorry, I've never taken care of a female before, so I don't understand these things." Leah patted his shoulder and said, "You're a member of Saint Nazir now and you're so powerful. As long as you're willing, there will definitely be good females willing to accept you. So, you have to learn all these and remember them. Otherwise, your female will not like you in the future." Aside from the topic, it was the last day of January. The monthly ticket would expire tomorrow. Chapter 425. My female. Huh. Oriton instinctively looked at Gu Mengmeng and Elvis, wondering if he would one day have a partner like Gu Mengmeng, who did not mind his background and was willing to act coquettishly in his arms. Even if it was just pointlessly cutting beast horns together, he could still smile so blissfully. Smile, Oriton purposely pulled the corners of his lips, wanting to show Elvis's expression, but the corners of his lips were too heavy, he could not pull them up no matter what. Leah was observing Oriton's every expression, smiling as he patted his shoulder. "Are you envious?" Oriton nodded. "Leah, I'm envious too, originally, she used to smile like this in my arms. Oriton glanced sideways, his eyes filled with a trace of sympathy. Leah returned a smile. Meng Meng did not abandon me, I was the one who made the foolish choice. So, I am already very satisfied to be able to stay by her side like this. Don't pity me, because I am not pitiful. Oriton nodded again. Actually, I am envious of you too. Leah curled his lips proudly, waving his large tail behind him. Of course you should be envious of me, because I am the happiest male in this world, other than Elvis. Oriton looked at Lee's tail in confusion, asking, you are clearly a fully evolved orc, why do you always pretend to be a half-orc? Leah looked at Oriton as if he was looking at an idiot, replying, of course it's because my Meng Meng likes my tail. Oriton thought for a moment, then asked again, then today, the people in Sauter suddenly started pretending to be half-orcs, wagging their tails and revealing their beast ears, all to please Gu Meng Meng? Leah nodded, replying, should be. But their efforts are futile. My Meng Meng only likes a pure white tail and a black tail. Oriton remained silent for a moment, before slowly transforming his own tail. A pure white tail and a black tail, wasn't that referring to his tail? Oriton did not say a word, only focusing on how Leah changed his knife to deal with the prey, then memorizing every detail. His eyes drifted to Gu Meng Meng from time to time, only to realize that her eyes seemed to only see Elvis. If Elvis could become Gu Meng Meng's first partner because he had a black tail. If Leah could become Gu Meng Meng's beast pet because he had a white tail. Then, since he had a black and white tail, did that mean he could become the third happiest male in the world? Leah sliced the meat and started placing it into the pot. Everyone was given a pair of chopsticks made of twigs and a small bowl. The water was boiling, just right. Leah had sliced the meat until it was as thin as a cicada's wing and it was cooked immediately. Gu Meng Meng, Elvis and Leah all started eating, but only Oriton was holding on to 2 pieces of wood, not knowing what to do. He imitated how Leah and Elvis held the chopsticks, but in his nervousness, he heard a cracking sound. The chopsticks broke. Gu Meng Meng looked up and smiled gently. It's all right, Elvis and Leah were the same when they first used chopsticks. You're just not used to it. As she spoke, Gu Meng Meng scooped a piece of meat from the pot with her chopsticks and placed it in Oriton's bowl. Is this your first time eating cooked food? Try it and see if it suits your taste. Chapter 426. Oriton's face flushed red instantly and his mouth felt like it was on fire. Looking at Gu Meng Meng's expectant gaze, he nodded his head stiffly and said, delicious. But Gu Meng Meng could clearly feel Oriton's stubbornness. How should he put it? Gu Meng Meng was just purely bad. She knew that people in the beast world did not eat chili and these 2 pieces of meat were definitely Oriton's first taste of chili. She was indeed looking forward to it, but she was looking forward to seeing Oriton's reaction after being spiced by the chili. Who knew that this fellow actually had no reaction at all? Actually, it wasn't that there weren't any. His eyelids twitched uncontrollably, and his eyes were bloodshot, giving off a funny and ferocious feeling. Gu Meng Meng was a little disappointed when she did not see the reaction she had expected. However, she still passed a bowl of water to Oriton and said, don't force yourself if you are not used to chili. Drink some water and calm down. Oriton was still expressionless, but when he took the bowl of water, he looked at Gu Meng Meng hesitantly. Gu Meng Meng smiled. Don't worry, it's clean water. There's nothing strange in it. Oriton replied with a single syllable, then gulped down all the water in the bowl. Wiping his mouth with his arm, he passed the bowl to Gu Meng Meng. More. Gu Meng Meng was just about to take the bowl when Leah walked over while wagging his tail. Hey, are you the beast deity? Oriton did not understand why Leah would ask such a question, but the answer was obviously not the case, so he shook his head honestly. Leah hugged Gu Meng Meng's waist with one arm and took over the water bowl from her hand with the other. He threw it back into Oriton's arms and then forcefully stuffed his large tail into Gu Meng Meng's arms. Gu Meng Meng instinctively hugged Lee's tail and stroked it twice. Leah sighed in comfort before continuing to look at Oriton. My Gu Meng Meng is the messenger of the beast deity, the biological daughter of the mighty beast deity. Other than the beast deity, who would dare to order her around? I'm warning you, if I see you ordering my family's Meng Meng around again, I'll put you into the pot and eat you. Only now did Oriton realize what he had just done. In the beast world, how could there be a female taking care of a male? Even the babies were taken care of by their fathers. How could he? I'm sorry. Oriton lowered his head. His tone was sincere, and his face was expressionless. Gu Mengmeng felt rather awkward and said, Aya, it's actually nothing much. He's a guest and doesn't know where we keep our things. It's rude of him to touch anything he wants. It's normal for him to let me take it. It's fine, there's no need to apologize. Gu Mengmeng patted Li's chest to soothe his breathing. Then, she turned around and smiled at Elvis, who was already clenching his fists and ready to strike. Finally, she pointed at the huge water tank not far away and said, There, the water is all over there. You can go get it yourself, don't stand on ceremony. Oriton raised his head and asked, Aren't you going to chase me away? Gu Mengmeng retorted, Why should I chase you away? Oriton was silent. He seemed to be troubled by this problem as well. After thinking for a long time, he said, I don't know how to say nice things, I don't know how to coax you like he does, and I don't know how to curry favor with you like he did. I don't know how to order you around. Chapter 427. Oriton was dazzled by Gu Mengmeng's smile. In his memory, no female had ever smiled at him like that before. When he was weak, the females always chased him away with a look of disdain, not allowing him to get close to them. Even though he was the one who laid there to bask in the sun first, and they were the ones who came later on, as he grew stronger, the females' attitude towards him gradually softened. After he reached the peak of 3rd level, females from various tribes started to smile at him and invite him to become partners. But he only felt that their smiles were disgusting and made him feel very uncomfortable. So he did not even say a word of rejection and just turned around to leave. Later on, he himself did not know why, but more and more females expressed their affection to him. It seemed that those who dared to confess were all the first beauties of each tribe. Or maybe, they were really beautiful. Oriton even started to doubt his own sexual orientation. If not, why did he only feel annoyed and disgusted when so many females, whom males flocked to, expressed their affection to him? But luckily, he realized that he was not only annoyed by females, but also by males. But even so, he still came to Sauter's beauty pageant every year. He did not want to become partners, nor did he want to join a tribe. He just came to meet someone. He did not know what the meaning of his actions were. Perhaps he just wanted to know that he was not an anomaly, that there was another person in this world who had almost the same experience and background as him, but had overcome all the obstacles and stood at the top of the world against the light. He started to imitate that person's behavior and way of doing things unconsciously. He thought that he would always be like this. But he did not expect the change to come so suddenly. One day, the ice on that person's body seemed to melt into water, nourishing his dried-up soul. His eyes were no longer cold and indifferent, his lips were no longer curled up with killing and bloodlust, his world was no longer only destruction and subversion. Oriton really wanted to know, how did such a person who was as cold as iron become like this? Looking up, Oriton stared at Gu Mengmeng's smile, as if he had the answer. Look again and I will gouge your eyes out. Leah bore a grudge against Oriton for calling him a despicable. With a sweep of his large tail, he swept Gu Mengmeng back into his arms and said, Mengmeng, let's ignore him and go eat some meat. Gu Mengmeng laughed out loud and nestled in Elvis's arms, mocking Li's narrow-mindedness. Leah was not angry at all. Instead, he deliberately picked up a piece of meat and sent it to Gu Mengmeng's mouth in a despicable manner. Gu Mengmeng opened her mouth, but he took the meat away. Then, he raised his chin and said, This is despicable. The 3 of them laughed heartily. Oriton sat where he was, holding an empty bowl and watching. It was as if he was watching a movie. The plot was very heartwarming, but he could not enter the scene. Gu Mengmeng realized that Oriton was in a daze, so she smiled and called out to him, If you are not used to eating chili, go and fill a bowl of water. Wash the cooked meat in it before eating, then it will not be so spicy. However, Oriton did not do so. Instead, he rigidly picked up a few large pieces of meat with his chopsticks and stuffed them into his mouth. His mouth was blistered from the heat, but he chewed and swallowed as if he didn't know the pain. Gumengmeng smiled helplessly. It's just eating hot pot, do you have to be so unafraid of death? Chapter 428. After the four of them finished their dinner, the sky had already darkened. Elvis carried Gumengmeng and walked towards the deity altar. Leah stood less than a step behind Elvis, while Oriton stood slightly more than a step behind Leah. The three of them formed an A shape. And from the front, Elvis was carrying Gumengmeng in the middle, with Leah on the left and Oriton on the right. Even though it was their first time walking together, they had an inexplicable rapport and did not feel out of place. When they reached the deity altar, even Gumengmeng, who was basically deaf in the beast world, could hear everyone's whispers. Oriton has really become the guardian beast of the great messenger. No wonder so many females were rejected before. It turns out that he has high standards. What do you know? High standards also require strong abilities. Look, doesn't he look like Elvis from back then? You don't say, he really does look like him. Could it be that the great messenger likes this kind of coldness? Don't you think I look like Elvis when I don't smile? You? Do you think the great messenger is blind? That's true. I've been an adult for so long and I've only become a second-level beast. How can I catch the great messenger's eye? That's right, look at the perverts around the great messenger. Elvis's first partner, he leveled up immediately after mating. It seems like he's not far from the peak of 4th level, and leveling up to 5th level is just a matter of minutes. Beast pet Leah, known as the wisest man in the beast world. Saint Nazir was built from nothing to now under his planning, and no one dared to provoke them. And that newly joined Oriton, he's at the peak of 3rd level for a long time. As long as the great messenger is willing to mate with him, he'll be the second Elvis. TSK, I'd be happy even if I have to become a food reserve and never have the chance to mate with the great messenger. Pfft, even if you're happy, the great messenger isn't. Moreover, what's the use of being happy? Elvis, Leah or Oriton, which one can you beat? You can't even reach the threshold of a challenge, you only know how to daydream. Gumengmeng turned back to look at Oriton awkwardly, then at Leah and finally at Elvis's ear. She whispered in his ear in her softest voice, "What should we do?" Everyone seems to have misunderstood. He doesn't like females anyway. If there are no females pestering him to mate in the future, he should thank you for shielding him from trouble. Gumengmeng's expression froze. She stared at Elvis with widened eyes and repeated, "What? He doesn't like females?" Elvis nodded and said, "Among all the most beautiful females in the entire beast world, almost all of them have expressed their affection towards him. If he liked females, would he still be single now? I don't even know whose partner I became." Gumengmeng's Fujoshi heart started to burn fiercely. She looked at Oriton and Leah from behind Elvis's neck. TSK, what a feeling. Yaya, what a good match, isn't it? One was cheap and the other was cold. Oh my god, isn't this the perfect combination of a domineering facial paralysis attack and a wicked Sundara? Leah felt an inexplicable chill down his spine. He looked up and met Gumengmeng's secretly laughing eyes. Narrowing his eyes, he felt a sense of familiarity. It's still the same recipe and the same taste. Chapter 429. Leah followed Gumengmeng's gaze and turned back. He could no longer maintain the smile on his face. This Gumengmeng even changed partners for him this time. Clenching his teeth, Leah took a step forward and knocked Gumengmeng's little head. "Don't let your imagination run wild." Gumengmeng blushed and muttered guiltily, "How did I let my imagination run wild? I didn't think of anything." Leah raised his brows. "You better not think of anything. Otherwise, I will let Elvis and Oriton team up to satisfy your fantasies." Gumengmeng felt a chill down her spine. She stared at Leah with widened eyes. When two sides meet, there is no future. Leah looked at Gu Mengmeng wrapping her arms around Elvis's neck tightly. She looked like a child afraid of her beloved doll being snatched away. He said with jealousy, "So Elvis is your precious baby and I am the wild grass by the roadside? Do you despise me so much that you have to push me to others? No female dares to want me, so you set your sights on males?" Gu Mengmeng's fantasies were actually just a wicked hobby to satisfy her own hobbies. She did not really want to do anything. Of course, unless both parties were willing. But towards Leah, she still felt a sense of guilt. So every time Leah acted like a Samiette abandoned by its owner, Gu Mengmeng would be so cowardly that she could not do anything about it. Sighing, she said, "I didn't really do anything. I just thought about it." Leah bit his lower lip and looked at Gu Mengmeng sadly. He hesitated and hesitated. Slowly, he opened his mouth to ask, if I am willing to cooperate, will you be happy?" What? Gu Mengmeng was always the type of person who would become bolder the more cowardly she was. Once you played for real, she would immediately become a coward. Leah bit his lower lip. His eyes seemed to be clouded with humiliation. He forced a smile that made one's heart ache. "It's all right. As long as you like it. I will do it." With that, Leah turned around and walked towards Oriton. His huge tail drooped and dragged on the ground. It was stained with dust and turned black, but Leah did not seem to notice. Gu Mengmeng was extremely nervous. She was just playful and wanted to satisfy her little fantasy. She did not really want Leah to tease Oriton. "Leah, don't be rash." Gu Mengmeng reached out her Erkong hand and shouted. Leah stopped in his tracks and did not turn back. His voice was filled with sorrow and despair. "Anyway, you don't like me anymore. It's worth it to use this body to make you happy one last time." Gu Mengmeng's hair stood on end. What the hell? The last time? Was he planning to make it last forever and pass it down forever? Don't, you. That. I won't think about it anymore. Calm down. Gu Mengmeng felt that she was speaking incoherently. However, Li's shoulders trembled, as if he was trying to hold back his sobs. He lifted one leg with difficulty and continued walking forward. "Anyway. I'm just a person who's being despised. The fate of a beast pet is to please the female, as long as you're happy. Anyway, you don't like me, I like you." Gu Mengmeng's brain heated up and she blurted out. After saying that, she instinctively turned around to look at Elvis. She felt as if she was caught in the act. She wanted to explain, but she saw Leah turning around and looking at her with eyes brimming with tears. It was a feeling of survival in a desperate situation. He looked at Gu Mengmeng in a daze, as if he was not sure at all. Gu Mengmeng's explanation was stuck in her throat. She could not say it out loud. Aside from the topic. Chapter 430. Mengmeng, what did you say just now? Say it again? Li's gaze shone. That pair of loving eyes contained thousands of strands of infatuation, entangling Gu Mengmeng's heart. Gu Mengmeng pursed her lips and said, "Stop fooling around and come back quickly. Everyone is watching." Leah looked down and gave a bitter smile, saying, "How much did I desire for you to hallucinate? Why would you say you like me? You obviously despise me, hate me, and think of ways to get rid of me every day. Why would you say you like me?" Turning around, Leah continued to walk towards Oriton with difficulty. Gu Mengmeng felt as if she could hear Yuan Hua's background music from Charlotte's Troubles, snowflakes fluttering, the north wind howling, like, "I like you." Gu Mengmeng hardened her heart and shouted at the top of her lungs, "Leah, I like you. So get your ass back here now. If you take another step forward, I will ask Elvis to break your legs." Leah turned around and smiled at Gu Mengmeng. His voice was a little choked up as he said, "Mengmeng, I finally heard you say you like me again." With that, Leah transformed into a snow fox and curled himself into a ball. He followed Gu Mengmeng's instructions and really rolled back to Gu Mengmeng's side. Lying on the ground, Leah transformed into a human again and held on to Gu Mengmeng's little foot lightly. He placed it by his lips and kissed it, saying, "Mengmeng, I'm finally back." Gu Mengmeng's heart skipped a beat and she wanted to retract her foot. But Leah held on to her ankle firmly and refused to let go. He looked up and said, "This time, you said you like me and asked me to roll back. So, you can't push me away anymore, understand?" Gu Mengmeng hugged Elvis's neck tightly. She really wanted to explain to Elvis that, it's not what you think, but she could not bring herself to say it. She swung her ankle and said, "You're the witch doctor of Saint Nazir, how could you make yourself look so pathetic? Hurry up and stand up." Leah smiled faintly and stood up seductively. After this round of transformation, that pure white tail became white and spotless again. It was fluffy and had a firm texture. Although it swayed slowly, it created a pleasing curve every time it swayed. Standing beside Gu Mengmeng, he said, "Whatever you say, I'll listen to you." Gu Mengmeng pursed her lips and buried her face into Elvis's neck, refusing to look up or look at anyone. The whispers below the stage had reached a point where you could hear people talking, but you couldn't make out what they were saying. Gu Mengmeng's mind was in a mess and she could not think. Gu Mengmeng's mind and she could not. Leah was in charge of identifying whether the food brought back by the males was really chili. He eliminated a portion of the ones that were fake and compared the quantity of the rest. The top 5 who of the most CHS had the most won them successfully. However, no one knew what these chilies could be used for, so they were all given to Gu Mengmeng. Bai Ao. Ling O. Of. On this day, none of the level 3 beasts, who were eager to join the Qing Mengmeng family after seeing that Oriton had successfully joined, dared to request to join. Chapter 431. After settling the official matters and returning to the small stone house, Elvis placed Gu Mengmeng beside the bed. However, Gu Mengmeng wrapped her arms around Elvis's neck tightly and refused to let go. She did not speak nor look at him, just burying her head and hugging onto Elvis's neck tightly. Elvis sighed and said, "I'm not angry, don't worry." Gu Mengmeng looked up with a face full of tears and sobbed, "How can I not be angry? If it was me, I would have gone mad with anger, but I just blurted it out in a moment of hot-headedness, Seeing that Gu Mengmeng was crying, Elvis panicked even more. He did not dare to put her down again and could only hug her in his arms. He comforted her gently while wiping away the tears on her face. "I was mentally prepared for Leah to mate with you a long time ago. In the future, I will no longer be your one and only, so I will still feel a little disappointed. But I'm not angry, really not angry. It's always good to have one more person who can protect you. I don't want. Gu Mengmeng kicked her legs and cried like she was throwing a tantrum. "I don't want anyone else other than you, don't want no. Elvis patted Gu Mengmeng's back helplessly and comforted her. "All right, don't want if you don't want. Don't cry. Under Elvis's comforting, Gu Mengmeng only calmed down after a long while. Only then did she realize that Leah and Oriton were sitting at the door, staring straight at her. Biting her lower lip, Gu Mengmeng avoided Lee's gaze and said softly, "Leah, you want to apologize to me again?" Leah walked to Gu Mengmeng while wagging his big tail and smiled slyly and ambiguously. He pinched Gu Mengmeng's little face and said, "Crying so much for me, I thought I was going to die." Hearing Lee's words, the tears that she had finally stopped started flowing down again like a broken string. Leah sighed in panic and helplessness and said, all right, don't cry. Actually, the one who should apologize is me. I shouldn't have troubled you like that, don't be angry, all right? Huh? Gu Mengmeng wiped her tears and looked up. Her clear eyes were like the sky that had been washed by water, clean and transparent. Leah smiled naughtily and said, "See, it's all that fellow who shared food with us. Everyone was itching to join your family. You're kind and easily soft-hearted. What if you can't resist one of them and attract more trouble? That's why I thought of such a way to make a ruckus, to give those delusional males a wake-up call. Even an outstanding male like me hasn't received your favor. At this time, if anyone dares to fight with me for your favor, I will tear them apart alive. Once they won't dare to disturb you. I'm guessing that they're all waiting for me to mate with you before joining our family. For a moment, Gu Mengmeng's brain broke down and she stared at Leah in a daze, not saying a word. Leah cleared his throat and said, "If you are angry, then punish me. But let me say this first. Although it was wrong of me to mess with you, you were the one who asked me to roll back. So you can hit me and punish me, but don't kick me out." Gu Mengmeng slowly reached out her little hand and twisted Lee's ear. "So you were purposely playing with me just now?" Leah cried out in pain from the pinch, but he did not dodge or evade. He just let her pinch him as he begged for mercy and shouted in pain. Oriton stood at the door with a poker face. He really couldn't understand. Was he really that scary? Why was she so scared when Leah just moved closer to her? Out of topic, Leah, the 3 cruelest words in the world are not, "I don't love you" or "I've never loved you," but "I'm sorry" after "I like you." But what could he do? In the end, I couldn't bear to make things difficult for you. Chapter 432. Leah rubbed his ears and sat opposite Gu Mengmeng. He complained, "When you like me, you ask me to scram back. When you get angry, you pinch my ears, sobs sobs sobs. Gu Mengmeng, you are so heartless." Gu Mengmeng straightened her neck and said, "Saying I like you is just a temporary measure. If not, wouldn't a good and innocent tiger like me be taken away by a bad fox like you?" Leah looked at Gu Mengmeng in disdain and said, "Isn't it to match your bad taste?" Gu Mengmeng placed her hands on her hips and shouted, "I didn't." Leah smiled devilishly with a, "I don't believe you" expression. He covered his mouth and laughed, all right, if you say you didn't, then I didn't." Gu Mengmeng's face darkened. She looked up at Elvis and said, "Hubby, you have to believe me. I really didn't." Elvis's gaze was a little complicated. He looked at Leah and then at Gu Mengmeng and said, "You have a criminal record." Gu Mengmeng almost bit off her own tongue. Heavens, please send a bolt of lightning to strike her to death. What was wrong with her back then? She actually confessed to Elvis that she suspected he and Leah were a couple, Xiao Meng. Elvis looked at Gu Mengmeng's red and swollen eyes and said, "I will go boil some water and give you a good bath. Then, you can have a comfortable sleep." Gu Mengmeng nodded and then shook her head, saying, "I don't want you to leave me. Even one step is fine." Elvis was helpless and said, "Then you can climb onto my back and I will carry you to boil water, all right?" "Yeah." Like an octopus, Gu Mengmeng climbed onto Elvis's back from his arms. She wrapped her arms around his neck and laid on his broad back, muttering softly, "I won't let go of you even if I die, so don't even think of leaving me behind." Elvis was stunned and laughed, "Silly girl, why would I leave you behind?" Gu Mengmeng did not say anything. She just bit her lower lip and clung onto Elvis's shoulder tightly, unwilling to let go. Elvis did not say anything and just went out to get water to start the fire. Leah very sensibly brought Oriton out of the stone house and into the night sky outside. He shook his tail and began to release his pressure. Oriton looked at him and asked, "Why do you say that?" Leah turned his head and revealed a surprised smile at Oriton. "Even you could tell?" Oriton nodded. Oriton nodded and said, "If you just want to prevent someone from confessing his love to Gu Mengmeng, killing them would be a simpler and more effective method. This move of yours is too roundabout and troublesome. It's not your and Elvis's usual style." Leah nodded approvingly. "Not bad, your observation skills are quite good." Oriton did not understand and asked, "Why would you say that?" Leah was silent. His smile was faint and somewhat sorrowful. After a long while, he slowly opened his mouth and said, "Solder is a place that makes me suffocate and she is the only oxygen in this world. If I don't hear her say that she likes me, I might not be able to hold on." Oriton more or less knew about Lee's banishment. Although it was not detailed, he could roughly understand it. Without any expression on his face, Oriton placed his hand stiffly on Lee's shoulder and patted it mechanically to comfort him. Leah glanced at him and smiled. If Gu Mengmeng saw this, her imagination would run wild again. Oriton did not understand and did not reply to Leah. He just looked at Leah and asked, "But since she already said that she likes you, why don't you take the chance to mate with her?" Aside from the topic, author, calculating with my fingers, I'm going to have meat tomorrow. Meat on the first day of February. Su is a very conscientious author, isn't she? Come, verify the group number, 4927799273. After entering the group, privately message the administrator and provide a screenshot of the fan value. Those with more than 800 fans will be added into the VIP group by the administrator to wait for meet tomorrow. Tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock, I will send breakfast to my babies on time. Chapter 433. Leah lowered his head and looked at his blurry figure under the moonlight. He said slowly, "I forced her once and lost her in the end. Only I know how much heartache I felt when she was in a difficult situation. I will not let her do anything she doesn't like, not a single thing." Oriton looked at Leah and said, "But you look like you are in pain now." Leah glanced at him and smiled. Compared to seeing her cry, this pain is nothing. Oriton remained silent for a moment. Yeah, she did cry quite miserably just now. How much does she hate you that she would cry like that just because you said she likes you? Leah raised his brows. He stretched out his claws and scratched Oriton's face. Oriton was used to wandering around and had an instinctive reaction to danger. He turned his body and dodged it. When males fight, there was basically no need to ask why, because fighting itself was the reason. On the other side, Elvis poured the boiled water into the huge bathtub dug out from a rock. Then, he removed Gu Mengmeng's clothes and placed her in the bathtub. Gu Mengmeng held onto one of Elvis's arms and refused to let go no matter what. Elvis was helpless. He leaned against the edge of the bathtub and looked at Gu Mengmeng. "Tell me, why are you crying?" Gu Mengmeng bit her lips and lowered her head. She did not dare to look at Elvis's eyes. After hesitating for a while, she said timidly, "I felt very embarrassed after saying that I could not bear the responsibility. Moreover, I felt that I had let you down after saying those words in front of everyone. I was so afraid that you would think that I am a fickle woman and leave me in anger." As she said that, Gu Mengmeng's tears started flowing down again. Elvis sighed and gently wiped away Gu Mengmeng's tears. "You have done enough for me. Even if you want to mate with Leah, I have no objections. After all, compared to other females, you only have me and Leah. It is still too little." Gu Mengmeng shook her head and hugged onto Elvis's arm tightly. "Hubby, I know I was wrong. I will not shout recklessly in the future. Don't be angry." Elvis rubbed Gu Mengmeng's head. "I am not angry. I am really not angry." Gu Mengmeng said, "You're lying. You were still sullen and jealous in the morning, and now you're suddenly asking me to take in partners. You're just angry at me." Elvis smiled. "If it's someone else, I might be angry, but if it's Leah, I think I can. After all, you like him." The corners of Gu Mengmeng's lips turned downwards as she looked at Elvis with her big eyes. Her tear-filled eyes looked so pitiful and her sobbing look made one's heart ache. "Hubby," Elvis stood up and stepped into the bathtub with his long legs. He hugged Gu Mengmeng in his arms and rested his chin on her little head. "Yeah, I'm here. I'll always be here. I won't leave you. Don't worry." Gu Mengmeng wrapped her arms around Elvis's waist and pressed her face against his chest, playing with his long, black hair that was drenched in water. In the water, his hair looked like it was dyed with ink, carrying with it a profound, ethereal and uncontrollable feeling. Gu Mengmeng hesitated for a moment, but still lifted her head and took the initiative to cover Elvis's lips. Elvis was taken aback for a moment before he quickly immersed himself in it. He kissed her back passionately and attentively. In the past, Elvis was always the one pestering her for such things. But this time, it was Gu Mengmeng's first time taking the initiative. Aside from the topic, "Come, babies, let's look up at the sky at a 45-degree angle and take a selfie to send to our circle of friends. It's February, let's talk about something serious. Do you want to eat meat?" Verification Group, 4927799273. Chapter 434. Elvis cleaned up the mess gently and wrapped Gu Mengmeng up with a beast skin. Then, he made the fire in the fire pile burn even more fiercely before turning to leave the small stone house. Leah was already back, but he was squatting at the door. Elvis glanced at him and asked, "How did you end up like this?" Leah smiled and said, "Nothing, I just wanted to test Oriton's skills." Elvis sighed and sat down beside Leah. He did not look at him and just said to himself, "Why do you have to endure it if you are feeling unwell? If you say it out, Xiao Meng might. Don't drag her into this, the less she knows, the better it is for her." Leah interrupted Elvis and said, "I want her to change her mind and like me, not pity me." Elvis remained silent. He was in a dilemma. He hoped that Leah could be happy, but he also yearned for more time to enjoy Gu Mengmeng alone. Silence was the only response he could give now. But Leah smiled and tilted his head to look at Elvis and said, "After the rainy season, Gu Mengmeng's food has become more varied and her body is much better than before." Elvis looked at Leah in a daze and did not understand. Leah smiled ambiguously and said, "She has been moaning for a longer period of time and louder than before. Doesn't this mean that she has gradually adapted?" Originally, mating was not a taboo topic in the beast world, but Gu Mengmeng was always too shy to mention it, and even Elvis felt a little shy. His ears turned pink and Elvis turned his face to the side and said, "It's not good for you to keep eavesdropping, be careful that in the future, you won't be hard." Leah laughed and said, "If I am impotent for the rest of my life, won't you be the happiest?" Elvis blushed as if a veil had been lifted. He did not reply, but his ears turned even redder. Leah narrowed his eyes and said, "Did you realize that you are becoming more and more like Gu Mengmeng? If this continues, if Gu Mengmeng really does not want to accept me, maybe I can really pair up with you and perform something that she wants to see but does not dare to admit." Elvis looked at Lee's devilish and flirtatious face right in front of him. He bared his teeth and said with a black face, "Scram, I'm not interested in males." Leah shrugged. "I'm not interested in males anyway, but I'm interested in males that look like Mengmeng." With that, Leah even tugged at Elvis's tail. Elvis exploded instantly and chased after Leah to attack him. Although Leah had just fought with Oriton, Elvis's exhaustion was no less than a fight. Moreover, they were not fighting with their lives on the line, so the two of them were evenly matched. In the end, he was so tired that he collapsed at the entrance of the stone house. He laughed and then fell asleep. The next morning, Gu Mengmeng felt that her throat was extremely dry, so she wanted to drink some water. In the end, she saw Elvis and Leah sleeping together as if they were filming The Golden Fans Family. TSK, they were just short of a field of sunflowers. Gu Mengmeng squatted on top of their heads and used a piece of fluffy grass to tickle Elvis's nose. Elvis gave a snort but did not wake up. Gu Mengmeng then went to play with Lee's ears. Lee's ears fluttered a few times and he fell into a deep sleep again. Chapter 435. Gu Mengmeng looked up and was a little surprised to see Cole, but she did not show any exaggerated expression. She just smiled politely and said, "Morning, what's the matter?" Elvis and Lee's eyes opened at the same time before Cole could say a word. Elvis flipped over and stood beside Gu Mengmeng, while Leah casually propped himself up with his elbows on the ground. He laid sideways and looked at Cole, smiling without saying a word. Cole still had that distant and polite smile on his face. He bowed to Gu Mengmeng before saying, "You don't have to be so guarded against me. Sauter is the Great Messenger's most loyal servant. We will not do anything to hurt the Great Messenger." Leah did not appreciate his kindness and sneered, "You are the previous great messenger's servants, not Gumengmeng's." Cole's expression was calm as he said, "I am a 5th level orc and I have already reached my peak. Do you think the two of you can stop me if I really want to do anything?" Gumengmeng originally did not have a bad impression of Cole, but he kept coming at Leah every day, making Gumengmeng feel uncomfortable. Although she and Leah were not husband and wife, they were at least friends, right? Even if they were not friends, they were at least roommates, right? As the saying goes, if you don't look at the monk, look at the Buddha. Even if you want to beat a husky, you have to look at its owner, right? Yes, Leah was not a husky, so did he not need to look at the owner when beating a Samoyed? Gumengmeng took a step forward and said, "I heard that Sauter has always been guarding the flame devil left behind by the messenger of the beast deity, so, if the flame devil were to get angry, you guys should have a way to deal with it, right?" Cole was stunned for a moment before he took a step back and knelt down on one knee. He placed his right hand on his left chest and bowed like an ancient European knight. "Great messenger, please calm down." Cole had forgotten for a moment that Leah is no longer Sauter's Ninth Highness, Cole's little brother, but the great messenger's beast pet. It is Cole's fault for offending great messenger Leah. "Please punish Cole and forgive Sauter, great messenger." Gumengmeng did not reply to Cole's words and acted as if she did not see him kneeling there. She said, "Speak, what are you here for? It shouldn't be just to waste my air, right?" Cole maintained his kneeling position and did not move. He replied respectfully, "There's a female that the great messenger brought over who applied to join Sauter. I can't make up my mind, so I'm here to ask the great messenger." Gumengmeng knew that he was referring to Ellie. Twitching his lips, he said, "Females have the right to choose their own tribe. Even if I am the messenger of the beast deity, there is no reason for me to imprison others. Think about it yourself. If you want to accept it, then accept it. If you don't, then don't. Don't ask me. I don't care." This. Cole seemed to be in a difficult position. Gumengmeng did not care about him. She just snorted and continued, "Today, I will announce another round of recruitment topics, then I will choose all the warriors I want in one go. Tomorrow morning, we will set off for Saint Nazir. Thank you for taking care of me during this period of time. I have enjoyed my stay here." But it wasn't his own home after all, and the feeling of living under someone else's roof wasn't too good. So, Saint Nazir will not be participating in future beauty pageants. Leader Cole, do you understand? Live under someone else's roof? Cole looked at Gumengmeng in fear. Chapter 436. Cole did not even dare to raise his head. His face, which was always smiling, showed a rare hint of panic. "It's all my fault. I did not know my limits and neglected Sir Leah. I beg for the great messenger's forgiveness. In the future, such a thing will never happen again." Gumengmeng nodded and said, "Indeed, such a thing will never happen again, because I will never come to Sauter again." Cole's gaze flickered and it was hard to understand. After a moment of silence, he said, "No matter where Mighty Messenger is, Sauter will always be your tribe. When you want to come, no matter where you are, we will go and welcome you. When you don't want to come, we will stay where we are and await Mighty Messenger's pity." Gumengmeng thought to herself, "Io, you still have two faces. I didn't see you talking so well when you were scolding our Leah." But thinking was just thinking and Gumengmeng did not say anything. She just snuggled back into Elvis's arms and turned her head, which meant that she did not want to talk to him. Elvis hugged Gumengmeng and said, "How much more air do you intend to waste in our house?" Cole did not get angry and just smiled and said, "Then that female." Leah stood up slowly and patted the dirt off his body. "Didn't Gumengmeng say that you can do as you see fit?" Cole clenched his fists and bowed to Leah. "Yes, mighty Leah." Leah was taken aback and gave a sarcastic smile. "This is the first time I've heard this form of address. It's so refreshing." Cole ignored Leah and just bowed to Gumengmeng again. "Then, I will take my leave first." Gumengmeng ignored him, but saw Oriton carrying a huge object and walking towards her. Gu Mengmeng waved her hands happily and shouted, "Oriton, are you here to share food again?" Oriton was taken aback. He wanted to laugh but did not know what to think. So this was the feeling of someone looking forward to your arrival? No wonder, even though he was not a member of Gu Mengmeng's family, he would subconsciously use the word "hui" in the process of coming to her side. Oriton and Cole brushed past each other. Their footsteps did not slow down at all, but at that moment, they still looked at each other with an inexplicable sense of hostility. Oriton placed the enormous object on the ground, then said, "The beast horn you wanted, I was afraid of breaking it, so I brought it back whole. Let Elvis break it off for you, I'll handle the meat after that. Let's eat hot pot today." Oriton still had a poker face when he spoke. He did not know when he had stopped using facial expressions to express his emotions. Whether he was happy or sad, it would not be reflected on his face. Gu Mengmeng laughed and patted Oriton's arm. "Hot pot is delicious, but you can't eat it every day. Let's eat something else today." Oriton savored these two words, as if it was the first time he had heard of them. Nodding his head, Oriton said, "I'm not picky, I eat everything." Gu Mengmeng asked, "Do you eat those bird eggs?" "Leah likes it very much but Elvis doesn't like it." Oriton thought about it and remained silent for a moment before saying, "I guess I like it." "Probably." Gu Mengmeng smiled and asked, "Don't you know whether you like it or not?" Oriton shook his head and said, "I've never eaten bird eggs before. I'm not sure." Chapter 437. Oriton pondered for a while, then said, "It's all right, there are many parts of my tiger life that are not complete. Although some of them can no longer be made up for, but the part about eating bird eggs, I think I can try to add it back." Gu Mengmeng patted Oriton's chest in deep relief and said, "You are ambitious, you are really a good tiger." Oriton felt an inexplicable sense of mission and sincerely felt that eating bird eggs was a very solemn and sacred matter. Nodding his head, he said, "Then I will go find bird eggs." "What kind of bird eggs do you want?" Gu Mengmeng clapped her hands and said, "Young man, you still don't understand me. Why would we lack bird eggs at home? Leah would steal, find a few fresh ones every day and store them. As for the manufacturer, let's not be too picky, because they basically all taste the same after being cooked." Oriton nodded his head as if he understood, then pointed at the giant beast and asked, "Then do you still want this horn?" "Yes, I have wanted a rhinoceros horn comb for a long time. Look at my hair, it's starting to get knotted. It's useless even if I wash it, I don't know how many of my hairs are broken after using wooden combs to comb them." Gu Mengmeng felt rather aggrieved when she thought of the wooden combs that Elvis had made for her. She originally thought that wooden combs were pretty good, even a good one on Taobao would cost up to $100. This was definitely an antique-level comb, wouldn't it be priceless? Who would have thought that? The combs sold on Taobao were all soaked in oil, while she only had the fat from animal fats. There was no way she could soak the wooden combs. In the end, the wooden combs were dry and rough, and there were even many bristles after the water was depleted. Saying too much would just make me cry. Elvis's heart ached for his wife's grievance, and he especially could not bear to see her lifeless look. So without a second word, he went up and snapped off the beast horn. When he passed by Oriton, he waved the beast horn in his hand and said, "I want this thing." Oriton shook his head. Oriton was expressionless and did not react at all. Gu Mengmeng looked awkwardly at the scene that was almost the same as yesterday's scene. She smiled and patted Oriton, saying, "Don't take it to heart, my hubby is just like that, he doesn't know how to say pretty words. But the wolf's character is still very good." Elvis turned back and scooped up Gu Mengmeng's waist, pulling her back into his arms. He sneered at Oriton and said, "You don't have to explain, I just snatched his things. If you are not happy, just snatch it back." Gu Mengmeng spoke like a serious and earnest old-class monitor. "Hubby, snatching other people's things is not right." Elvis raised his eyebrows and said, "The fact that I can snatch his things proves that I am stronger than him." He can only blame himself for not being able to protect his own things. Seizing the land by force is the right thing to do, why is it wrong? Gu Mengmeng was speechless for a moment. She blinked her eyes and choked out, then the person you snatched will be very upset. But Elvis smiled and turned to look at Oriton. Hey, I heard that you are very sad. Oriton looked at Gu Mengmeng blankly, then slowly shook his head and said, I'm not sad. Elvis pinched Gu Mengmeng's little face and smiled. The males in the beast world will not be upset over being snatched. Because to us, being upset is the most useless emotion. We will only think of becoming stronger and snatch it back. Aside from the topic, author, Io, aren't you pretty arrogant? Do you think that you are a 4th level now and no one can control you now that your wings have grown? Elvis, yes. Author, don't admit it so easily. Elvis, the beast world's limit is 5th level. I am now at the peak of 4th level. Those who are stronger than me can be counted with one's fingers. Author, counted with one's fingers, this proves that there are still some, Elvis, for Xiao Meng, no one can be stronger than me. Author, you can be smug all you want. Let's see if you will cry when someone stronger than you appears one day. Remember what you said when you snatched Oriton's things today. Let's see if you will be slapped in the face in the future. Elvis laughed coldly. If not for the fact that your fingers are holding on to Xiao Meng's life, I will tear you into pieces just because you dare to talk to me like this. Author, you unfilial son, I doted on you for nothing. Sobs, I want Leah to compete with you for your favor. I want to open a harem for Gu Mengmeng. Chapter 438. Gu Mengmeng looked at her own slender arms and legs helplessly and complained, sigh, what if one day my things are snatched away by someone? Won't I have no choice but to blame it on my bad luck? Elvis laughed coldly with a murderous look in his eyes and said, I want to see who dares to snatch your things. Gu Mengmeng's heart warmed and she turned into a fangirl. She hugged Elvis's neck and kissed him with eyes full of admiration. Then, she said, Hubby, you are so manly, so handsome, so handsome. Elvis was amused by Gu Mengmeng and threw the beast horn to Leah. Then, he carried Gu Mengmeng and sat further away from the fire to prevent her from being roasted by the heat. Leah took over the beast horn, then used a big bowl to scoop some water and began to clear it. Oriton, on the other hand, carried the huge beast and walked out to handle the prey. The rapport between the 3 males did not require any words, not even a look. Gu Mengmeng shook her head and smiled. If the harem of the ancient emperors were as harmonious as yours, the emperors would be so blessed. Elvis tilted his head and asked, you want to be an emperor? Gu Mengmeng shook her head and said, I don't dare to think too much. Is it so easy to enjoy the bliss of having multiple partners? It might look like a harmonious atmosphere, but in reality, it's all about scheming and plotting against one another. It's so cruel and bloody. TSK, luckily I transmigrated here. If I transmigrated into a palace drama, sigh, I probably won't survive past 2 episodes. Elvis did not quite understand Gu Mengmeng's unit of calculation and what was the concept of 2 episodes. He could not explain it clearly, but he liked to see Gu Mengmeng beaming with joy. So, he followed her words and asked, then, other than the emperor, who else can enjoy the bliss of having multiple partners? Gu Mengmeng pouted and said, actually, most men in the ancient times could have 3 wives and 4 concubines. Other than the royalty, the rich merchants also had groups of beautiful concubines. Other than marrying those with status, they would also keep many singers and dancers for entertainment. Once they go out, it's even worse. They would have 7 to 8 bodyguards following them and they would beat up anyone they don't like. That's tyrannical bullying. TSK, although it's immoral, it's still pretty cool and impressive, right? Elvis thought for a while and pointed at his own nose. Beauty. Gu Mengmeng. Elvis pointed at Leah and said, the performer. Gu Mengmeng. Elvis then pointed at Oriton, who was returning with a pile of sliced meat, and said, bodyguards and followers. Gu Mengmeng. Elvis smiled and rubbed Gu Mengmeng's little head, asking with a warm expression, "Rich merchant, who do you want to beat up? After dinner, the three of us will accompany you to bully others." Gu Mengmeng, pfft, ha 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 ha. Gu Mengmeng laughed so hard that her back was bent over. She slapped her thighs and said, "The three of you? Concubine? Performers? Bodyguards?" Elvis nodded his head seriously and said, "If the number of bodyguards and followers is not enough, we can call a few more from Saint Nazaire, plus the newly joined, it should not be a problem to gather 7 to 8 people." Gu Mengmeng waved her hands and said with a smile, "Oriton is just here to make up the numbers. He can still act as a bodyguard. But the concubine and the performer are female, understand? Ha 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 ha." Chapter 439. Gu Mengmeng nodded. Elvis said, "How can a male have so many females? This is disloyalty, he should be sent to the platform of the deity's punishment." After Gu Mengmeng was done laughing, she then said slowly, "The ancient customs in China are similar to the ones here, just that the females and males have to be swapped. If it was in the ancient times, a female accompanying so many males here should be drowned in a pig cage." Leah walked over while wagging his tail and passed the washed beast horn to Elvis. Then, he softened his body and nestled beside Gu Mengmeng, using his large tail as the back of the sofa while he sat beside Gu Mengmeng seductively. He pouted and pinched his throat, saying, "I don't want to be a dancer, I don't know how to sing or dance, I want to be a beautiful concubine, the kind that specially warms your bed and accompanies you to sleep." Gu Mengmeng exclaimed in disdain and said, "I have Elvis, I don't need you to warm my bed or accompanies me to sleep." Leah was not angry, he sat up and laid on Gu Mengmeng's thighs, saying, "Then I also want to be your beloved concubine and guard the door for you when you and Elvis are mating." Gu Mengmeng blushed and almost hugged Lee's head on the spot, wanting to die together with him. Oriton put down the praise he prepared, then said faintly, "I will be your bodyguard, I will help you hit whoever you want to hit." Gu Mengmeng pushed Leah away and burrowed back into Elvis's arms. She shook her head and sighed, pounding her chest and stamping her feet, saying, "Sigh, it's fine if the fox is not a proper fox, but now even the tiger has been led astray. I am not a tyrant, why would I hit someone for no reason? I won't do things like bullying others and taking advantage of women." Elvis thought for a while and said, "You clearly said before when you hit Nina, you don't need a reason to hit her." Gu Mengmeng, "Elvis, you always stick together with Sandy and bully Bode. Isn't this considered as bullying others?" Gu Mengmeng, "Are you my real hubby?" Elvis nodded with a serious face and said, "I am the real deal, I support verifying my identity." Gu Mengmeng puffed her cheeks and said, "I am not talking to you guys anymore, I am hungry and want to eat." Leah tilted his head and said, "Let me be your beloved concubine and I will cook for you." Gu Mengmeng rolled her eyes and said, "What do I want you to be? If you can't do it, I'll do it myself." Leah turned around and stuck his entire body to Gu Mengmeng's back. He hugged Gu Mengmeng from the back and used his furry tail to wrap around her waist, stuffing it into her arms. The side of Lee's face was close to Gu Mengmeng's ear, his long and narrow eyes were filled with a myriad of flirtatious emotions. His voice carried a hint of ambiguity and closeness. "Why not? You become my beloved concubine. I'll also cook for you. Besides, I won't keep any dancers or bodyguards. I'll just treat you wholeheartedly. What do you think?" Gu Mengmeng glanced at the big tail in her arms and hardened her heart. She carried it up and sent it into her mouth, taking a big bite. "Ow!" Leah let out a wail. That wail scared Gu Mengmeng so much that she was dumbfounded. "If you say you are in pain, then scream. Why did you scream as if you were moaning in bed?" His voice was dragged out and even had a twist. "You're tuning into the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.